9 out of 10 Crystal Skulls agree. Click like and subscribe to the Heavy Underground. Ooh, that one skull, let me tell you.
20 years ago, on 2 April nights in 1999, the chart-smashing thrash masters Metallica entered the Berkeley Community Theater alongside the San Francisco Orchestra to record their groundbreaking S&M collaboration. For nearly 2 decades, these concerts have marked an iconic milestone for the band, and with a major 20th anniversary at hand, March 18, 2019 brought an announcement from Metallica and the San Francisco Orchestra that they will celebrate this major event by holding court for an unexpected redux of these historic concerts with the aptly named S&M2. Set for September 6th and September 8th, 2019, the second show was held in reserve exclusively for the band's ravenous fifth-member fan base. During this unbelievable performance, every single Metallica album found itself represented, and a number of unexpected surprises added incredible depth and breadth to the night's performance. From time-tested classics and modern Metallica epics to an intriguing synthesis of classical composition and metallic heft, the night's performance, strengthened by the grand cinematic bombast of Michael Kamen's original scoring work and Michael Tilson Thomas's nuanced modern flourishes, both band and orchestra leave an unforgettable impression on the 18,000 or so in attendance. A powerful night of forward-thinking musical collaboration, Night 2 of Metallica and the San Francisco Orchestra's special S&M2 celebration will never be forgotten. With another day to enjoy the city of San Francisco, I had assembled a list of important locations from Metallica's past to undertake a fairly exhaustive sojourn across the Bay Area. More than a dozen stops on the itinerary, I emerge alive from the hotel I have justifiably termed the Embassy Murder Suite on Monday, September 9th, 2019. A rental car, a full tank of gas, and a full day of exploring the Bay Area are sure to minimize my exposure to whatever 70s-era smoke-infused Paisley disease is running rampant in that room. Beginning the morning on a sojourn across downtown San Francisco, a number of iconic locations related to the storied history of Metallica were on the itinerary. Having spent an entire evening back in mid-August planning the most efficient route through the city, the one variable I had neglected to fully account for was beginning of the week Monday traffic. A spot of gridlock was little concern, however, as a full day away from the perils of the horrific murder suite was a more than agreeable compromise. First was the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium as I traversed downtown San Francisco. A historic Metallica gig occurred here on December 31st, 1985, as the band rang in the new year with a raucous hometown crowd. Then known as the San Francisco Civic Auditorium, the venue was renamed in honor of the trailblazing hometown promoter Bill Graham in 1992. Next, the easily recognizable spot Tommy's Joynt has served as an iconic San Francisco eatery for over 70 years. In the fall of 1986, this establishment would offer a comfortable location for Metallica to officially invite Jason Newsted to join the group during a tumultuous time. The first leg of my Metallica History Tour traversing downtown San Francisco takes a little longer than planned, so the already once-delayed stop for a meal at Tommy's Joynt faces another more indefinite postponement, as I am not sure when the winds of Metallica will carry me to the West Coast again. Just down the street, one of the most iconic locations in the history of modern music, the Fillmore, was up next for a daytime visit. In addition to almost 60 years of classic and influential artists gracing the hallowed halls of this esteemed venue, the Fillmore hosted Metallica and their fervent fans on a couple of key occasions. First, the Fillmore was home to a legendary stretch of 4 free fan club shows in 2003 to celebrate the impending release of the band's 8th studio album, Saint Anger. Next, the Fillmore served as the home base for the band's 30th anniversary celebration over 4 days in 2011. With a never-ending parade of special guests and a deep dive into the band's voluminous catalog, this 4-night event remains one of the most talked-about events in Metallica history. Nearby was the former Kabuki Theater, now an AMC movie theater. Metallica took the stage of the Kabuki Theater for a pair of shows on March 14th and 15th of 1985. A CD of the March 15th show was included with the deluxe box set of the band's second album, Ride the Lightning. Located near the intersection of Broadway and Columbus, just under the Condor sign, an anonymous friend donated a plaque in honor of the too soon departed Cliff Burton. Part of the Barbary Coast Trail, this plaque offers a subtle commemoration of one of the most unique and iconic musicians in the history of all that is heavy and loud. Arriving at another formerly known as location, 443 Broadway housed a legendary venue known for vicious punk, hardcore, and metal shows. In addition to Metallica, the Mabuhay Gardens afforded an inviting space for many diverse acts to sharpen their attack, including the Dead Kennedys, the Runaways, Devo, Motorhead, Sun Ra, REM, Black Flag, Exodus, DRI, Flipper, and Death Angel, only to name about a dozen. Still working my way through downtown San Francisco during midday Monday, the venue previously known as The Stone comes into view. With numerous appearances here throughout 1982 and 1983, The Stone, most importantly, was the location of Cliff Burton's first show with Metallica on March 5th, 1983. Next, another live home for our favorite burgeoning thrashers, the Old Waldorf, played host to some of the band's earliest live excursions back in 1982. Unlike some of the other former venues on this expedition, the walls of the Old Waldorf still echo with live performances, albeit a bit more humorous than ear-splitting. A comedy club, the Punchline San Francisco, currently occupied the space. Pausing for lunch, a search for an In-N-Out burger led me about 15 minutes south of the city. A larger diversion than I was expecting, but well worth the trip. The crispy bun, fresh-cooked patties, and tasty sauce make for an outstanding burger. Crossing the city with an eye towards the Bay Bridge, Berkeley in the East Bay boasts an equal number of important Metallica-related sites. For the first stop across the bay, Metallica celebrated Record Store Day on April 16, 2016, with an up-close and personal performance at Rasputin Records in Berkeley, California. Hot on the heels of the release of the remastered editions of both Kill 'Em All and Ride the Lightning, this performance at Rasputin offered an iconic image of the band and its fans, mixing it up with a setlist drawn entirely from these first two classic slabs of thrash, with a jam of Diamond Head's Helpless thrown in just to make heads explode. Tying in with the reason for this whole trip to San Francisco in the first place, the next stop on the itinerary is a small Art Deco theater on the campus of Berkeley High School. 2 decades earlier, the subtly ornate Berkeley Community Theater played host to Metallica's first S&M performances on April 21st and 22nd, 1999. Over the years, the Grateful Dead, Frank Zappa, the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and Led Zeppelin are just some of the artists who have crossed this stage. Continuing down the road, a building situated at 2618 San Pablo Avenue was the home of Ruthie's Inn. Ruthie's Inn welcomed a litany of hardcore punk and thrash metal royalty during the 1980s. While Metallica performed here only once on August 24, 1985, a peek at the show's setlist illustrates just how special this show was. Just north of Berkeley, one obvious stop on this round-the-bay journey is the enclave of El Cerrito, Metallica's home base in the early to mid-80s. 3132 Carlson Boulevard, the Metallica Mansion. It remains standing as a point of pilgrimage for the Metallica faithful. Lovingly kept and owned by a Metallica fan, this revered location, where both Ride the Lightning and Master of Puppets were largely written and rehearsed, is an essential stop for any true Metallica fan. Upon completing the journey to the Metallica Mansion, a jaunt across the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge allowed for a safe and distant view of the infamous San Quentin prison. On May 1st, 2003, Metallica entered this dour facility to film the music video for the song Saint Anger. While on the inside, our resident metal heroes performed for over an hour to the inmates and staff of San Quentin. Rolling across the bridge, San Quentin's looming presence passes behind as the ground of Marin County soon appears underneath the long and undulating bridge. Reaching San Rafael, the county seat of Marin County, one particularly unassuming building remains on the day's expedition. All roads lead to Shangri-La on this Metallica History Tour. Reaching the Land of Oz, aka the Promised Land, my final stop is known simply as Metallica HQ, the band's longtime base of operations. Housed in an unassuming, low-slung building, those with the dedication and knowledge may reach this mystical place, but like enjoying nature, it is best to not leave an imprint. Completing the loop, I travel south from San Rafael towards the Golden Gate Bridge. Passing over the bridge at dusk offers a spectacular view as the already set sun still held on to a vestige of light over the ocean, while the city of San Francisco grew in illumination in the darkening eve. Having meticulously planned out a short 3-day trip to the city by the bay, damn near every minute of every hour had been filled with an activity or objective, and my final night in town was no exception. Returning to the legendary Fillmore, the weekend sonic deluge continues with a night of expansive drone power in the presence of the subsonic masters themselves, Sun O. Decorated with over 50 years of the venue's namesake posters covering almost every square inch of wall space, the Fillmore exults in its legacy as a focal point for decades of musical expression. After a well-intentioned intervention by the local fire department, the long-heralded drone lords finally take the stage to lay waste to every eardrum within a 4-block radius with their overwhelming sonic power. Rising and falling in unison, the 5 members of Sun-O literally push and pull the air that surrounds us with great gusts of distortion, feedback, and droning synth. Moog pulses and acerbic washes share the air with desolate trombone as our doomed exemplars wield their overwhelming aural might for maximum effect. With Sun-O's drone dominance reverberating eternal throughout the historic Fillmore Auditorium, the electrified crowd disperses into the night, bodies still humming from the band's overwhelming amplifier discharge. With a minimalist approach to maximum volume, Sun-O deliver another genuine and engrossing performance. Behind the wheel and decidedly less than enthused to be returning to the Horror Hotel, a secondary plan begins to take shape. I still have the rental car until 10 a.m. the next morning, just before I am set to head to the airport, so a plan develops for one final nighttime citywide trek. Looking for late-night, made-to-order food in San Francisco is a difficult proposition. While takeout places, bars, and restaurants may keep a menu running all hours of the night, the concept of a convenience store with an MTO counter seems like a foreign idea. A selection of junk food from a 7-Eleven is chosen to occupy the passenger seat on this nighttime drive. Loaded up on carb and sugar-laden foods I should not be eating, I traveled to Haight Street for a late-night sojourn to 2 iconic locations. Up first, 1524A Haight Street and an apartment that Jimi Hendrix made his home for several years in the 1960s. A large mural of the legendary musician graces the side of the building to commemorate the residence's previous occupant. Next, ground zero of the 60s cultural zeitgeist, 710 Ashbury Street served as a home for the Grateful Dead and their expansive retinue from 1965 to 1968. As a focal point for the exploding cavalcade of musical expression in the 60s, these 2 locations were essential stops on this now extended and expanded musical history tour. Crisscrossing the city, a 3 a.m. stop on Nob Hill brought me to the Masonic Auditorium. This venue was the reason for my trip to San Francisco the previous year. Metallica's All Within My Hands Helping Hands concert was held the year before on November 3rd, 2018, and a return to the location of this amazing night was added to this impromptu late-night journey. Continuing to drive around this amazing city into the early morning hours, close to 5 a.m., I made it back down to the Chase Center for one final look at the locus of the weekend's excitement. Memories indelibly etched, I returned the car just down the road from my accommodations and returned to the Snuff Motel to check out early. Gathering my belongings, I climb into the hotel shuttle to head to the airport almost 4 hours early. A multitude of Metallica shirts are still to be found around the terminal as wayward strangers find commonality sharing their memories or just a knowing glance over such an incredible weekend.